Well, looks like things are really getting fun. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for a video on Marvel Contest of Champions. I've just come back from work, just stepped in the door, and I've just noticed that a lot of stuff has happened and a lot of things need to be updating. Please do bear in mind that I will not always be able to release content as fresh as possible, and the two videos that have gone out today in the kind of early part of the afternoon in UK time, they are now older information as per yesterday. There's a lot of fresh information, which is what we're going to cover today. The first thing to update people with is this particular point by Kabam Mike, and the fact that it does mention that a small amount of content contributors have been asked to test some stuff out. But do bear in mind, who are these people? I'm not saying that we should out them. I'm not saying that we should care too much, but we should. Especially if they've got a huge 5-star and 6-star roster, or maybe a huge 5-star and 6-star roster that has been ranked up extensively. Because does that represent everybody in this community? No, it doesn't. Quickly going back and touching on the statement about champion requirements and also what I said in the previous video, that I'd like to have used stronger champions at a higher starage level, so technically 7 stars in an event like this in say about a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years time. Just because that's the point of going, right, well the champion will be stronger than the content that it's grinding out. And that's the point of me going, right, well I don't want to spend too much on units and revives in order to complete that content quickly. I've got a lot of patience, which I know in some cases other YouTubers, MCC YouTubers will be like, oh, okay, there's content, let's get it done. And it's like, it's done in the snap. Not for me. I like to take my time with things. I do like to play other games as well. And just kind of think more about my videos that I'm making. I put a lot of production level into them, except for this one. This isn't like going to have a huge amount of production level. But the fact is, that's really what I like doing with my time. I do like taking my time, and it does feel like that's what Kabam's doing. They're making it incredibly more difficult to increase the longevity of the game. And my first kind of like thoughts was this game probably has until 2020, maybe like end 2019, before players start dropping off because they've had enough of the bullshit. And I'm not saying that this could be a catalyst for that, if you excuse the pun, but it is definitely feeling at times that if you're pissed off, go to a different game. For those that have invested time and money in particular the money side of things, as I've always said, if you come and ask me the question in live streams about like why hasn't my roster progressed more, do bear in mind when I was buying, and I did buy a lot in this game back between 2015 and 2016, me spending £100 now against me spending £100 back then is totally different. I would be able to get more for my money now with 5 stars than I would do with 4 stars. And this just really makes me a little bit sour about that point of devaluation of the starage going through to the end of the game where I am now. But at the end of the day, that seems to be the case with every single game. There seems to, if you buy something at one point, it is going to devalue at another point, which is the same thing if you buy a car. So buying Marvel Contest of Champions stuff nowadays is like buying a bloody car. As soon as you take it off the car lot, it devalues in price, value even. At the end of the day, it's up to you whether or not you buy into this game. Sometimes I love taking this game very seriously, and I love the intricacies and thinking about technical aspects of synergies and using different champions and getting this out of that by doing like a dash attack, heading back, persistent charges. I love those dynamics, but at the same time, I do try and kind of detract myself from it and play something or kind of do something that's a bit different. As otherwise, if you get too much into it, you really do burn out, and that's the problem. Free to play equals extensive burnout, or you're paying into the game and you're kind of getting somewhere quicker. But it's up to you whether or not you feel that you want to pay into the game. Unfortunately, I've gone somewhat off topic, so I'm going to bring it back to the point, and we want to talk about, again, champion requirements, what Kabam feel what they're doing is right, how we feel as a community, as there's two arguments here. There's the people that say, okay, well, this is bullshit, I've had enough of this, and the other side of it is that, well, I'm fine with this, it just seems to be a natural progression, and it's all kind of like, well, are we for this, are we not? But at the end of the day, we're all going to fall out. We're not going to be friends over this. And that's a shame because we're meant to be a community, but at the same time, Kabam need to listen to people's feelings and feedback. In this first paragraph, it talks about playing experience. It also talks about like, whether or not this is a fun game, talks about the capabilities, and as well talks about the idea of gating difficulty. Now, since 12.0, things have gone a different way, I think, than Kabam expected. At one time, it could have been a case we were having a gearing-based system where you'd have to maybe earn or buy premium items to then gear onto your champions to make them improve. So I don't know where Kabam had an idea that the game would be in 2019 based on what was happening in 2016. But I don't think it's turned out the way they really wanted. And talking about capabilities, everybody can swipe, dash, block and parry and dexterity and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is, it's not about capabilities when you think about, if I went into Act 6 with a 5-star Colossus or a 5-star Corvus, what would I necessarily choose? I'd choose the Corvus because the Corvus is a very strong, decent and usable champion. Colossus is not, so it does make the game very specific, not on capabilities, but on the characters and champions you have. Everyone's not created in equal, or all champions aren't created in equal. Now I know Kabam are addressing that, but at the same time, using the talk point of capabilities is different based on the champions. Certain champions make content easier, therefore make it a bit more funner, rather than feeling stressed about the stuff that you're doing. One thing that the game has a big issue with is dangling the carrot, it seems, and it is definitely a case with this. A lot of players want to get to the point that other players are, and they want to get there quickly. They don't maybe have the patience as, say, well, you know, most people do. It's a very much rush culture to get to the places quicker. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Yes, and it is no. I completely understand the tailoring of the difficulty based on levels, based on what you've actually achieved. And I think at times it is a case of going back to the whole argument about the champions. It's not capabilities, it's basically on the champions. If you pull a decent 5-star, it could literally take yourself through that difficult content, which again is like a fall on their own sword type thing with Kabam. If they create a powerful champion, then people will want to get that champion in order to either be the best defender, the best attacker, the best utility, the best synergy. Those seem to be the reasons that outweigh the difficulty of the content, because let's face it, if you have an amazing group of champions, amazing questing champions, one of those champions may be able to do an extensive amount of damage, and it then undermines things like your capability and what's standing and what content you're doing in the game. Okay, moving on to these two paragraphs here. The first paragraph to really address is the fact that it talks about where Kabam have come to change up things with difficulty, so saying that you need specific champions to do things like variant, and at the same time they're going to be doing some sort of like second back issue, so guess that's interesting to say the least. However though, it's the second paragraph that I've got an issue with, and it's talking about level caps, level progression and benchmarking difficulty. In any case, yes, that's correct. A beginner level 60 or beginner level 60, someone that's just got to level 60 like that, you're not as powerful as somebody that's been a level 60 for a lot longer, especially if you've got more based on purchasing. If you've put money into the game, then you're obviously going to be further progressing. That's fine. But how do you end up sorting out this issue based on the fact that people's expectations are there? Oh, I'm at level 60. All content is doable. No, it's not. It would have been better for Kabam to put into something, I know they're talking about other MMOs, but other MMOs have a better grasp on things. I'm not saying that Kabam are silly or not understanding the concept, but what you do is if you say Act 6 can only be achieved by reaching level 70, between the point of whatever time it takes between going from level 60 to level 70, you could have theoretically grinded out more 5-stars and more 6-stars. It increases the longevity of Kabam's game, and at the same time increases the amount of time that you're working towards getting to Act 6 to grind that out. That, in my mind, is a better idea. The same way that it could be said for things in other games. And yes, other MMOs do the same. When you reach a certain level, you're then able to gain access. So that could be a better thing than putting up with something like this. At the end of the day, this paragraph here brings us back to the subject matter, and that is the fact that Act 6 is geared to be more difficult. And at the same time, it's not down to, even though they say toolbox, the toolbox is basically what you've got in it, and what you've got in the toolbox is the tools. You've got your Corvuses, you've got your Captain America Infinity War, you've got a lot of the amazing champions in the game that are rated so highly, that are referred to as like God tier, but at the same time, that's the tools. And it's us, the users, choice how we use them. And we're all skilled enough to use the tools, But the fact is, we need the best tools. Oh yes, I've got a Gucci this, a Dolce & Gabbana that. That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. It's the premium type stuff. And that is going to be 5-star and 6-star versions at a higher rank, which we're going to want to use in order to get through this difficult content. I know Kabam talk about the idea of watering down stuff. Personally, I would like that. I think that's quite cool. The whole kind of reason I got into playing MCOC was not the skill aspect, was because I like Marvel characters. I'm big on Marvel characters. I talk about the comic book history. Not a lot of times people give a shit about that, by the way, and the whole kind of story aspect of what MCOC does, which a lot of people just like put to the side because it's all about rush, 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 get the content done, get the rewards, on to the next thing. And people seem to be fine with that. So is it really so much of a bad thing in order to make the content a little bit more watered down? Especially considering that there's so many more champions they could put into crystals and make money through that, rather than concentrating on making money through extensively difficult content, or champion requirements for that matter. I'm going to round things off in the last few paragraphs. It is mentioned and is a bit of an oof with Kabam Goggy saying that he or she struggles with, or was going to struggle with Avengers aspect to the recon initiatives. Now, I don't think you should have put that because it does mean that your roster is not going to be developed enough to then do it. It's like saying, well, okay, you're going to do Act 6 then, or are you factoring yourself in as a beginner level 60 or a veteran level 60? I don't know what that would necessarily be. But in any case, yes, the point is it is permanent content. But like I said, I like the idea of thinking that maybe if Kabam created more of a working towards something like a level cap and saying, okay, you could only go in and do Act 6 at a point of being level 70, then it does allow you within a space of time to generate and increase and put together a better extensive roster over 5-star and 6-star. So this whole kind of thing doesn't feel so salty to the community that want to use their synergies. Because it could be a case of saying, okay, in a year from now, I will be able to say to myself, I have the full synergy grouping at 5-star of Heimdall, Gladiator, Hulk, blah, 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 blah. The full kind of like aspect of that, Hela, Thor Ragnarok, you know what I mean. Just getting that full synergy group at 5-star. But that would take a year to do that. But if I was working towards reaching level 70 to get into Act 6, then I would have done my prep and I felt that I would have earned my point of going forward. So that's what I'm thinking. Like Kabam kind of need to understand that way of thinking, and I'm not saying that is the answer to the question. What should we do with champion requirements? I'm just saying that would have been a better way to go with things to feel that you are working towards something. So therefore, it feels like your champions are stronger than the content they're going into, but you have worked towards something. But now what we have to do is kind of, well, yeah, okay, it is a case of like working towards something. You still have to rank up your champions, but there's still going to be that rush to get into that and do it. Or maybe people will avoid it. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Go mental in the comment section, or go to the link in the description to this forum post and have your say, because it's kind of important to people for that next progression route. Hopefully you kind of understood where I was coming from. Hopefully I've spilt the tea as best I can and kind of put together my argument. I'm going to have to edit this now, and it's about an hour long. So I'm going to have to edit this down to more of a time bite. In any case, thanks for watching, if you're still watching. And I shall catch you in the next one, or in the live stream tonight. We can talk more then. Bye-bye for now.